Hello and welcome to the demo video for the home budget. This is a free spreadsheet which I give away to help people to keep on top of their personal finances. It is quite a detailed spreadsheet. There's more to it than most of the free downloads. However, most of that is formulated, so there's not an awful lot of data entry, but it is quite detailed. So I'm going to go through quite carefully, show you all the bits that you need to enter, show you how the reports work. So this video might be a fairly lengthy one. Starting off on the intro and setup tab, select the month that you want to start your year. I would assume it's January, but you might do it for some kind of financial year, and then input the year. And then what that will input the year as the date 2021, for example, and then that should show the start date and end date. If you've done something wrong here, these will be blank, then redo it until you see the start and the end of the year. That will then determine what your graphs are for and what date you enter, etc. You can put your name in there, and then you can select a currency symbol. I've made this for various currencies. If you leave it blank, the spreadsheet just won't show any currency symbol, but otherwise you can pick the one that's relevant to you. And then last but not least are these income and expense settings. This is just on the other pages for when it turns green, yellow, and red, and it'll turn a combination of red and yellow or green and yellow, whatever, depending if it's between these values. So I would suggest leaving these values to start off with. When you get to things like the report and you see all of these colors here, if you think, well, it's going green at the wrong kind of percentage and you want to adjust that, then come back here and adjust these percentages. Just make sure that the income, the green is the highest, the yellow is the middle, and the red is the lowest, and the red here is the highest, middle, and lowest. And then, you can adjust those as you go along. It'll probably make more sense once you've seen the report and you've seen the colors. Once that's set up, categories and budget, this is where you actually determine what categories you want to assign all of your income or expenses to. So we can list all of them. We can list all of the categories, and then you just tick if it's an income. So for example, salary one, you'd select the tick mark to say yes, it's an income. Salary two, other income. And then rent, mortgages, these are all expenses, so we leave that blank. Once you're done, you can actually just come there and sort that. A to Z, even though the income are mixed up, it will separate them on the other sheets where you want to select what's going on. But for now, you can just enter all the categories, whether income or expense, and then just tick the ones of income. You can't have more than 5 income categories, and you can't have more than 20 expense categories. So if you do, it'll flag up somewhere to tell you that you've got too many. So just make sure you've got within 5 income and within 20 expense. And then over here, you can put in the budget. Now, you put in either the budget or the target. Everything's put in as a positive value. So if you've checked this column to say it's an income, then that is obviously you making £250. If you haven't, then that 100 means that you can spend 100. So they're all entered as positive values, but whether they're positive or negative later on will depend on whether you tick that column or not. So the reason why these are blank is because you can actually put it in once. So if, for example, you put in the salary at the beginning once, you'll see here, this is what the spreadsheet is actually using. That salary continues throughout. So I did it like that to save you having to put 2,000, 2,000, 2,000, 2,000, and all the way through. So if you put it in once, it'll carry it on. If you do, for example, have something like here in the UK, the schools start in September, so you might have some school supplies that you have to buy in August. If you put it in August, it would then go from August throughout the rest of the year. So then you put 0 and it goes back to 0 and then 0 carries on, which means you've got the effect here of having 0 budget throughout, 250 in August, and then back to 0 again. So all you would do is anytime you put a value in here, it'll carry on. And when you want it to change, you can change it. So for example, here, energy, 120, we put it up to 130, we put it up to 140, we put it up to 150. Then we'll go 120 to there, 130 there, 140 there, 150 there. Or else the house upkeep, we put £500 and you took it to 0. So that 0 would continue today. And then there would be another thing of £500 in July. And that would then carry on. So throughout there is 0, so because you put it back to 0 again. So you only need to put them in here when they actually change. Otherwise, they will just, the last number you entered will just continue throughout until the end of the year. You can come here and double check. That's all your budgets slash targets. So targets for income, budgets for expenses. And at the top, it'll actually tell you the difference. So for example, here, we were going to, income would have been that, and the expenses would have been everything else. And the difference between the two is £170. So you can see how much money we should have left over if we stick to that budget. And this is the beginning stage. This is the first step to actually creating a budget. The next step would be to actually, once you've got that ready for the year, would be to capture all of your expenses, your income and expenses. And how you do that is quite simple, and that's on your transaction tab. It is just that section. This is what you fill in. Everything else will automatically formulate. So you put in the date. What I would suggest doing for the date, because it's formatted to a date format, and sometimes it gets confused, especially if you're using it in the US and it mixes up dates and is not quite sure what to do. My suggestion for entering dates would actually be to put in, for example, 1st of Jan and click enter, and then it will actually change to that date. Now this one's gone red because I'm actually doing last year's values, not this year. That's why it's gone red, because it's out of the date range. But that's how I would suggest entering dates. Because if you did, for example, 01-12 in the UK, it's often not sure whether you're putting in the 1st of December or the 12th of January, because it doesn't know which way around you're doing it, and it can become confusing. I have formatted the dates to go according to your PC, so it should change if you're in the States or wherever else you might be. So I would just put in, as I said, 1 Jan, and then let it choose the date format. That solves any complications. So once you put the date in, the net is going at the bottom and putting in another one. Once you put the date in, it's due 1st of Jan 2021. Then it asks you to select the category. And here you see you've got your income categories first, and then you've got your expense categories. So if you went and bought some clothes, you put in clothes, and then what it would do, it will ask you for that money out value. Now, immediately as you put in clothes, it tells you a few things over here, and I will show you what is going on. Actually, this one, it's not in date order. So let's put one in for the 2nd of December, 2021. And let's say you bought some clothes. Okay, what this does now is it says to you, this month you spend 79% of your budget on clothes. Your year to date, i.e. including all the different months, you spent 97%, 97.5%, so you may have got over budget somewhere else. And it actually tells you where what your available balance is and what your available balance is year to date. So this month you can spend another £12.60. Year to date you can spend another 18. It gives you the balances of what you can actually spend. So each time you put one in, you can see what's outstanding, what you can still spend, and you can put the value in. So if you then came in and spent £12.60, for example, then the budget goes down to 0. It says minus, it doesn't matter, minus 0 plus 0 is the same thing. So it gives you your actual budget that you can spend, so you can monitor it. And here, as you can see, you spent 100% of your monthly budget. So that's how you fill it in. The only other thing that you can do, if you are spending money, you're putting the money out. If you're spending, if it's income, you're putting the money in. If you get like a refund and you go, well, what do I do with this? Because it's actually money in, but it's you know, if you buy some clothes and you return them or something, it's actually money in, but it's actually for clothing. So what do you do? There are two ways you can do that. You can either put it in as another income. You can make an income category called refunds or something and put it in as an income, or you can actually put in as clothing, but put the money out, put 0 for money out, and then put money in, type in how much money you came in, and all that will do is actually credit your clothing allowance, so to speak. The one thing you do need to bear in mind is you always sort by date below. So if you sort by date, lowest to highest, then that will make these percentages and the values get correct. If I did go to the bottom, as I tried to do earlier, and add in 1st of January here, then these values will be incorrect if they're not in the correct order. So once you put it in, just resort this, get all these dates in the right order. And if those dates are in the correct order, then these will work. The last thing, the last two columns here, subcategory and details. Details, you can put in whatever you want. This is, for argument's sake, an invoice number or a receipt number or a note to say, I don't know, you bought 3 t-shirts. It doesn't matter. It's totally up to you. You can put in there whatever you want. This subcategory is an optional extra, but it's quite a useful extra because it generates a report at the end. You'll see that shortly. But if I've done it here for eating out, for example, what you might want to do is you may want to subcategorize something like eating out or whatever it might be. You might have 2 different cars, for example, and you have one thing of fuel and which cars are for, that kind of thing. So instead of having a list of subcategories, the way I've done it is you can type in a new subcategory. So here, for example, it gives you the options of McDonald's, Burger King, and Domino's because they've all been used for eating out. So if we went to the 2nd of December, hang on, let's put that in as 2021. If we went to the 2nd of December and we actually went to eating out, so we go down and go eating out. Now we've got the option in the subcategory McDonald's, Burger King, or Domino's. If we didn't go to any of those 3, if we went to KFC, for example, then you can fill in KFC because then next time it'll give you McDonald's, Burger King, Domino's, KFC. So it'll give you, it basically adds anything new that you put into the list. Or you can just simply select one that you've already entered. So once you've entered it once, you put in the list and then you can select it the next time. The only limitation here is that each category can only have up to 10 subcategories. So once you've entered 10 different places, if you enter an 11th, it will flag up as not acceptable, and it won't include it. So you want to keep that within 10, and then that will then give you further reporting at the end. So that's how you fill in the transactions. You can do this day by day. As I say, if you forget one and you have to enter it, go down to the bottom, enter it. Don't try and insert rows and add rows and things like that. It's just going to cause grief. Go down to the bottom, add in the bottom, then click here and sort oldest to newest, and it will sort them all in order. And that will probably be the best way to do that. Once you've, that's all you need to do. Once you've done your intro and setup, you've got that at the beginning. Categories and budgets you do at the beginning of the year, more likely, and then the transactions you do throughout the year. Once you've done that, everything else is ready for you and it's all automated. And these reports will work throughout the year. The reason why I've done a full year here is so you can see everything, because a lot of these will be blank until you actually reach the month. So what would happen is when you get into June, then June's data becomes available. Until then, it will be blank. Because I'm looking at last year's data, everything's visible. So yeah, let's have a look through this. I'll give you stage by stage what we're looking at. This is your total breakdown. So month by month, money in, money out difference. What percentage of the target did you achieve as far as money in, and what percentage of the target did you achieve as far as money out? Now, obviously, getting more than 100% of money in is good. Getting less than 100% of money out is great, and then it gives you the balance each month. It also shows you a breakdown of all the different categories per month, what percentage of the budget you hit. So here we can see for energy, we hit 72% of the budget in July, but there in energy, in April, we went to 130% of the budget. So you can see where you've gone over and under budget. All these hundreds, obviously, that's great, but if you don't want the 100% to be red, you want the 100% maybe to be yellow, and you can go into the intro and see that and change those percentages. So that's all good. What's the next one? Cumulative savings. It just shows how much money you've saved, and it just adds it onto the previous month. This is your income per month compared to target. So that's your income. When you got the green bit, that means you've gone over target. And when you got the red one, it means you've just gone under target on your income. Here it shows your expenses. So here we can see, there's the expenses. Each time we've actually spent less than what we thought we would. If they were red, that would be over the budget. So you can see per month. Here you've got savings compared to expected. So the blue section is what you, well, the whole thing, I suppose, is what you actually save, but the blue section will indicate, in this case, that you aim to save that, but you actually saved a lot more. Whereas if you didn't save enough, so this is how much money, this is the difference between your income and expenses that you actually achieve compared to what you plan to be the difference between the two. There you can actually see your actual income versus actual expense. So right next to each other, you can see what's come in versus what's gone out. So here you have a month where you spent a bit more, and over there close to the threshold, but obviously these months over here you were saving quite a bit. And then this one is saved or overspent per month based on income and expenses. So this is not including the targets. It just shows the difference between saved, what you earn and what you spent. And then this last one is your actual saving versus planned savings. So there you can see what you actually save, i.e. the difference between income and expense, and what you plan to do each month. So this report is quite comprehensive. It gives you all sorts of graphs and things, and it's all based on the data that you enter. And as I said, each month the data will become available as you start the month. So you might find when you start a month, you may have these, it might throw your numbers a little bit out of whack because you've got budgets for that new month that you haven't spent yet. They might be all promising. But obviously, as you go through the month and you enter that, it'll adjust accordingly. Your category report, this is one where you can simply come and select one of those categories. And let's select that eating out, which I did, and I can show you what it means. This tells you what type it is. It tells you what you spent in the year. It tells you what the monthly average was. It tells you your expense percentage. So in other words, this was 2% of your overall expenses. And it tells you how much of your budget you've used. So we've used 124.9% budget. So we've gone over budget with eating out. And that's cost us £149.20 more than we expected. Here you can see what portion of eating out, your expenses eating out. So it's not that big a deal, as I said, 2% roughly. So there you can see the little 2%. So you can see on this graph how much difference it makes. And it brings the selected category to the top, which means your income is here. So you might have a situation where this income line is actually going through the light blue sections, but not the purple sections. And what that means is if you cut out that expense, you'll actually be able to save money, whereas now you're making a loss. So you can see where this eating out has made the difference between you not making money, you're not saving money, and you saving money potentially. So that's why I've done it like that. Last but not least is a breakdown per subcategory. So remember, we put in the subcategory McDonald's, Burger King, Domino's. This one then will then just do a graph showing you each month that particular expense and what portion is made up of each. So you could look here and go, wow, out of all the eating out, we do eat a lot of McDonald's, or we do eat a lot of Burger King, or whatever the case might be. So you can just see a breakdown of where that money is going, subcategory wise. The last sheet is a fairly boring one, but quite an important one. What this does is it takes your categories from your categories and budgets, and it puts it in here, and it pulls over the actual amounts that you spent per month in each of those categories. So this one is similar to the budget one, but instead of just putting it once, it actually falls in each and every cell, and it gives you each value based on what you actually spent this year. So now if you want to do the budget for next year based on what you spent this year, what you can do is you can actually just come to the adjustment column and make an adjustment. So this one you just need to enter a percentage. So for example, if you think your what should we do here? If you think your car maintenance was way too high and you want to bring it down, you can say minus 20%, and that will cut the budget by 20%. If, for example, your mobiles are going up by 10%, you can put in 10%, that will raise that by 10%. If you think the fuel's gone up by 15%, you can put in 15. And if for some strange reason council tax comes down by 10%, you can put minus 10, and then it will adjust it accordingly. So this will then update all of last year's figures with a new percentage across the board. So if you had trends where, for example, your energy in the winter was much higher and the summer was much lower, it'll take exactly what you spent last month and it'll put it in to this one, following exactly the same trends, but with that percentage across the board. Once you've done that, the last thing that you can do here is you can actually just round it off. So you can select here, round up, round down, or choose, which means if it's closer to rounding down, it'll round down, closer to rounding up, it'll round up. So if we say, for example, round up to the nearest £1, £10. If you leave this blank, it'll round. If you leave both of these blank, it'll round to the nearest penny or cent, depending on your lowest denominator. Whereas if you actually say choose, for example, round up, it'll round up, and then you can say to the nearest single units, a pound, dollar, rand, whatever, euro, or to 10. So if we say round up to 10, as you can see there, where it said you were 43.80, it now goes to 50. So it'll round up in your sense. You can adjust that. Once you've finished, you can have a look at this one and see what's going on there. And if you're happy with that, then all you can do then is you can simply take this data, copy that, go to your next spreadsheet for the next year, right-click, paste values into there, and it will put all of those values. So don't do normal paste, that will put formulas and ruin everything. Paste values will do it. If you put the paste values, then what will happen is this budget will then be set for the following year. Now you can then go and alter individual months once you put it in by adjusting this if you want to. Once you put the because what if you paste values, and this won't be locked, you'll be able to edit this and you can go and adjust these. So you could use this as a general guide, put it into the other one, and just go off and round them off, change some figures, play around if that's what you wish to do. And then you can start the next one. The next one will be the same. All you would do is put in 2022. And then once you've got your budget in place from the previous year, this will be blank and you can start entering this again and carry on as you did before. So yeah, I hope that all makes sense to you. I hope that explains everything properly. And yeah, obviously, I think at this stage when the spreadsheet's made in 2022, the world is in a bit of a mess, and financially, I think a lot of people in a lot of countries are struggling. So if this helps you to monitor your expenditure and keep costs and things down, then I really hope that it does help with that. And I wish you all the best. Thank you very much, and goodbye.